perfect preparation, now they see it overlap. They forgot about the boy, guess they had him into laps. I've been waiting on this moment, now they sitting on my lap. Now they know the boy is winning, so I had to take a lap. Yeah, they capping that they working while I'm wearing different hats. Put my vision in my lyrics, now they listen front to back. I'm gonna be here for a minute, so I did it under pack. I made music for the underdog that's waiting to attack. You decide who you know you wanna be today. If you put it in their hands, they playing keep away.
Hi everybody, I'm Michael McMillan. This is IAM Foster. Today we have a special guest, Michelle Walker. How are you today?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. So we're going to get right into the first couple of questions of the day. So what age did you enter the foster care system?
I was 11 years old. I was in the 7th grade.
In the 7th grade. Do you remember why you entered the foster care system?
Yes. Long story short, my father, I didn't have a mother. She left when I was, 2 or 3. He was abusive, and he had been for as long as I can remember. But it was only me that he would hurt. And I came home one day from school and saw him hurting my little brother, who is special needs. And I told my friend. And so my friend told the school, and the school called me to the office. And that's what happened.
Do you remember, so with your dad doing that to your brother, do you remember how that affected you?
I felt angry. I was so angry because I was very protective of him because of his special needs. And I'd always kind of thrown myself in front of him in the past to kind of protect him from everything. It didn't matter if it was from my dad, other kids at school, it was irrelevant. And when I came home and I saw that, I was hurt, obviously, but I was definitely angry, so angry. Then I wrote a letter to my friend at the time, and that's what she took to the principal and told her what was going on.
So
Anger, and I felt so bad for him, my little brother, anyway.
So with you being angry, did that escalate of any sort of you like did you no, that was just basically like just a letter, or did
I
you
was, I was too afraid to say anything to him because I could tell in the mood that he was in. Like he had just finished hurting him, so he was pretty much done for that night, and I didn't want to escalate that at home.
mm-hmm.
Um, and then when I wrote the letter to my friend, and I did tell her about other instances in the same letter, so it wasn't just that single incident. It was actually pretty lengthy, and it was basically me telling her that this is what's going on. I hate it. Like I don't feel safe, and I'm tired of it. It's not fair. And just I wanted my dad to die. I mean, I flat out I wish that he would die at the time.
At the time? So with you feeling like that, what advice can you give kids to help them deal with that same kind of emotions you're feeling?
Emotions are hard, and some people like to talk it out. Some people don't like to talk. A lot of kids don't. I would just suggest writing or finding another healthy outlet. So if it's not writing, maybe music. If it's not music, maybe exercise. But if you have that pent up anger and aggression, it's going to be better for you to find some way to let it out without hurting anybody, including yourself. I mean, whether that be, hitting a wall or whatever, but finding a healthy outlet is probably the best thing you can do. And somebody to
That's
talk to, if you can trust someone, then I would suggest that.
that's amazing. We're gonna get to that part too. You wrote the letter, and then your friend took it to the school. Can you give us 2 stories about, like, you'll never forget about the system itself, like the beginning part of you going into the system?
Yeah,
Like
I've
good or
got a
bad, doesn't like it could be positive or negative.
I've got a pretty good story. I don't know if anybody that's listening would be familiar with Glendora, California at all, but that's where I was at.
I'm from San Dimas, California.
So you know what I'm talking about then.
Well, I'm from Inglewood. I'm from Inglewood, California, but I went to high school in San Dimas, California. So I know
Yeah.
exactly what you're talking about.
So I was going to Goddard Middle School, and again, I'm not sure if you're familiarity with it, but it's a little. We lived not in the nice area, but up there on that side was like the up in the hills kind of neighborhood.
hmm
And so my friend told the principal, and I was pulled into the office, which ironically or coincidentally, I was supposed to be making up a run for PE or something anyway. So my dad had already expected me to be at a school late. So instead of making up the run, they had me sitting in the office waiting for CPS. And I didn't understand what that meant. I was 11 years old. I didn't really understand. Um, and then all of a sudden, the secretary or something walked away, and my dad walked in. And I was scared to death. I was like, oh my God, oh my God. He knows what's going on. I'm in trouble. Oh my God. He yanks me in the car. We drive off, and then all of a sudden, we have cops flying to follow us and to bring us to the school. So then we go back into the school. CPS finally arrives with my little brother, and things happen. They took us to the Los Angeles County Department of Child Protective Services until they could find placement. So we were there until the wee hours of the night, and they couldn't find placement. It was, I mean, they really couldn't, because it was hard, because we had a special needs little boy, and we had myself as a, almost a teenager. And as we all know, a lot of families don't want to take kids that.
Yeah.
No, they just don't want to. And they think that that caseworker was trying to avoid us going to a group home. And so they were able to get a family to take us in. They ended up being more permanent, but they didn't speak English. So they placed me in a home with Hispanics that spoke no English. The dad did, but he was very seldomly home. And so it was a culture shock. Two, it was hard just because I didn't speak Spanish. So I had to learn really quick how to learn their language so that we can communicate. And it was just kind of crazy to me at the time that they would, one, I was upset because I have a ton of family down there, and none of them would take us. But the system, I mean, it's just so overwhelmed. And I even remember thinking that as a child, that, oh my God, they can't even find somebody, like, even just for the night. Like, that's insane. And putting us in a home where they didn't speak our native language was just baffling. It was like, how could you do that? Fast forward, however many years, and it's probably one of the best things that could have happened to me. But so there's that. I mean, just they're overwhelmed, right? They have so much. And then there's, again, that nobody wants the teenagers. We're the older kids. They think we're broken or we're trouble. That's another thing that kind of stuck out with me when I was that age. Back then, with the system itself, I didn't really know a whole lot about it yet. That was just my first thing, was like, nobody wants a kid that's my age. Why? Like, I'm not a bad kid. I think, yeah, I mean, I don't remember the group home my brother was placed in. It was in Pomona, though. He came to the first house with me. We went back to my dad briefly, and then obviously he wasn't doing any better. And we were taken out again, and I was very fortunate in going back to that same home. But they wouldn't take Bobby, which is my brother's name, because of his behavioral issues. But they weren't behavioral so much as they were, again, he's special needs, so he needs special attention. He was very hyperactive, so he didn't listen that well, but he wasn't like a bad kid necessarily. He was just one that needed extra help. But he got placed into a boys' home in Pomona, and it was with a bunch of angry boys, most of whom were delinquents, most of whom were in gang affiliations or had gang affiliations, and to this day he has not recovered from.
Why would they put a special needs kid in a Pomona group home?
Because they considered him behavioral and not special needs. Yeah.
Wow.
And well, we weren't fortunate like you with your caseworker. So we had I don't know if she was overworked or if she had too many caseloads. I'm not sure, but she was awful. She didn't seem to actually care. Not even in the slightest. Whereas the foster family that I had, they had their own caseworker through a private something at a Laverne. And that caseworker cared more about us than our state caseworker, which was crazy because they didn't represent us necessarily. They represented that family, but it's just crazy. I know they stuck him in a group home with a bunch of delinquents that probably needed to be there. Yeah,
and like that's I see my first caseworker. I'm not sure if she retired or something, but that's the one that put me in a well, she didn't put me. I had another person that put me in a level. It was a dude that put me in level 12, and then I got a female caseworker, and she came out. She did her best job. Um, and then it wasn't until I got to my mom, my foster mom now,
Mhm.
when I got 15, is when I got the caseworker that I was talking about earlier. Like, she helped save my life.
Right.
That caseworker, but that wasn't until after I got to my mom. Like, so I already had went through two different caseworkers in 2 years.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So
And it looks like they're overworked or something. I don't know.
exactly. Um,
And they said they
a lot of
why
places
they
are
got in it.
overworked with not enough pay. Um, do you remember how many foster homes slash group home? Oh, you never went to a group home, correct?
No, never went to a group home.
Do you remember how many foster homes you went to?
I was fortunate in three. So I had the Hispanic family, and then briefly I was with another family. I forget for how long. It wasn't very long. It was like a couple months, if that. And then I was back with that same Hispanic family from the very beginning.
Okay.
And then from there, I was an interstate transfer from California to Oregon, which is where I'm currently at, with my final foster family
Okay.
that I received as my parents now.
Did
I was
you
lucky.
what made you go back to the first foster home after you left it?
I don't recall. I want to say then when we were placed together with the Ramirez family, um, and then we went back to my father's in his custody temporarily, where we were removed again. And I want to say it was then that I was with that other family. Maybe it was a respite situation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall because it was so long ago. Because my brother wasn't with me; it was just me.
Okay.
So I had to have been after that initial time. So I want to say that that was probably most likely is that I was in a respite for like a month or so, maybe 2 months, with a different family, and then got placed back with the Ramirez family until 2002.
Okay. Um, so
I didn't get bounced around a lot like a lot of kids. I was lucky.
with your Cali to Oregon transfer, um, you said that those are your parents. Like
They're my
those,
parents.
that's who you
That's who I
consider.
consider my parents now. It's actually my biological father's sister that I didn't know very well. I barely knew her growing up. I wouldn't even have remembered she existed, honestly, if it hadn't been for them going through the process of moving us up here and us not knowing 'cause they didn't tell us.
Okay.
Nobody told us that they were taking classes and doing what they needed to do in Oregon because then they had to go through extra steps to have us move from California to Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, it was like moving in with strangers because I didn't know them. So, I mean, it was technically a family member that became a foster parent, but we didn't know them at all.
Okay.
Um, so, I mean, it wasn't like, oh, my auntie that I've been spending, that I've known my whole life. It wasn't like that.
Mm.
And so from there, though, my brother again got the short end of the stick there. And after we both moved up here together, he ended up having to move back to California, back into that group home.
Mm.
So we got separated again. And it wasn't because of my parents now. It's because the state of California essentially refused to continue to pay for his growth hormone injections unless he was residing in the state of California
California.
and not just an award.
Mm.
So they're a ward of the state of California residing in the state of Oregon. So we were technically
Me
still,
too. Yeah. Yeah.
and so because of that, they would not continue his growth hormones. And, he's a year and a half younger than me and he was significantly shorter. And even now with the continued growth hormone, he's only a couple inches taller than I am. I'm 5'4". So he's not a tall man. I mean, by any means. And so it was very important that we tried to get, that he tried to grow because
Mm-hmm.
otherwise he would have been even more, disabled in other ways. So
I got you.
yeah, it was
That's
pretty hard.
yeah. That's the that's what's crazy to me too. That's because I feel like if you can pass laws for foster youth in the state of California, that should go out. Like, foster care should be an entire country type law thing, not just state by state.
Yeah, it shouldn't change.
You know,
Right.
like yeah, it shouldn't change by state. Like one state shouldn't have this law for foster care, and then one state have this law for foster care. Everything should be the same, because not
Hmm.
only are you stopping these kids
Thriving.
from thriving, you're taking like California. The one thing I can honestly say about California is that when they passed that AB 12 was like the best thing they could have done for kids. You're allowed to go to college for free. They pretty much pay you to go to college, and you can be in a system still from the age of 18 through 21.
Yep.
But they don't have that in other states. Other states, it's pretty much you done at 18, then
Oh, they have the
you,
ILP program up here, which is similar to what you're talking about, I
yep,
think.
you can age out and go into IOP. Um,
Hmm.
um, but it's
But the college thing we don't have up here, I don't think.
ex,
Or we
ex,
didn't. We do now, though, I believe. The Chafee grant, I think, is what it is. Is
um,
that the same thing you're talking about?
yep, no, out here it's called. They passed a law in 2012. Actually, it was actually my senior year of high school. Um,
Perfect timing.
you can stay in foster care and not age out um,
That should.
from the age of 18 through 21. Um, you can choose to go to college, and
Hmm.
they will send a check to you every month. I mean, every month you'll get a check while you're in college, or and you have to give your social workers or something your grades and everything every semester, and make sure that you're on top of top of everything. Um,
That's
or
a good
you can
plan.
stay at home. Like if your foster home wants to keep you, or if you want to age out and go into IOP, you can you can do that, but you have to have a job.
Right.
Like
You
you have
can't
yeah,
lay
and
there and
to
do nothing.
you have to have a job. Um,
That's a
and
really good
yeah, and
program.
exactly, and but they don't have that in other states.
Uh-uh.
So I start talking about what I'm talking about, and they're like, "Wow, like that's amazing that you guys have that. We don't have that." And I'm like, "That's something that should be worldwide, because how you expect these kids to actually pay to go to school if they want to go to school?"
Right. I mean, again, I worked really hard in school, so I was able to get scholarships and grants and things like that. And there was one available for foster children, but it wasn't something like what you're saying. It was more like a grant that you can apply for and get it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This wasn't. This is like a
What you're describing, it sounds like exactly what most foster children need in order to succeed and get past that hump of,
exactly.
I got no one to rely on anymore, so I'm going to go this way because that's the only way, that's the easy way. So I'm
Ex-
going to do that. And it
exactly.
helped them.
They especially if you. I'm saying if you have a foster home, if you have a foster home that you are comfortable in, you trust them, and you feel like that's somewhere that you want to be, um, and they give you the right information, are you getting the information off of here? Then you should do that. That's like don't age out at 18 years old. You can, but if you can
Don't
get
do
that,
it.
if you're in the state of California and you can get that extra assistance until you're the age of 21 from 18, that saved my life in college.
Yep.
Like that saved my life, and that was they were the reason why I was able to go to college.
Hmm.
So
Man, that would be, if they can make that universal across the country, that would be phenomenal.
that's what I wanted. That's
The
what
only way to not perpetuate the continuous cycle that they have right now of kids just continuing the same pattern, right?
exactly.
They have to have that hand to help them, not just a handout, but like a hand to help, help them
Ex-
get up.
exactly. So how would you say your overall experience was
In the system,
in the system?
um, forgotten. Like I was a number. I mean, there were a lot of issues. I was lucky in a lot of ways, but just like many others, there's another side to it. There were issues in the foster home that I have brought to my caseworkers numerous times, and I wasn't heard. You know, the whole I had a really bad caseworker, so it's really hard. She just didn't care. I mean, it was pretty clear, and I remember her full name.
Mm-mm.
Like And it's like, if I can remember that full name and it's a mouthful, then that's a bad thing. Like, and it wasn't because of a good thing. I mean, it was because she was so terrible that I'm like, if
Yeah,
I ever see a
that.
woman, ooh, I don't even know. It would be, I wouldn't mean not physically, but I would definitely say something to her.
Hmm.
Um, it sucks. It feels it, in most cases, it feels like you're nothing but a number. That's all you are. You're just
Yes.
another kid in the system, just another court, hearing. It's just another transfer. It's just another problem. It's just another counseling appointment, whatever. But they're just tax dollars coming in, and that's what we are. Or
Yep.
that's how it feels a lot of the time, anyway.
That's how I felt in the beginning part for me. I just felt like I was
Right?
just like you
Because
said, another
nobody
number,
cares about
another
you.
number. And then like,
Nobody, until you find a good family, or until you find your person. If it's not a family or foster family or a family member, maybe it's a friend that you have in one of your homes or something that you can actually connect with. Until you have that person and a human connection, you have no one. You feel alone,
hmm.
right? And these caseworkers are supposed to, in theory, care about you, and they may very well have started out that way, but they don't always continue to be like that. Whether they could be overworked, who knows.
Hmm.
So it's really hard, to be in a system and already feel alone, already feel like you've been, abused or neglected or forgotten, and that you already feel like nobody cares about you because you're not with your family, right? And then to have that happen and then not have them actually show that they care and they want to hear you and be there for you, then it's like, what am I supposed to do? You feel alone, and it's hard. But that would be it. I also learned that you have to. It's only you. You got yourself and no one else, and only you can make yourself become something, and only you can make yourself do something better with yourself, so that you don't end up like your parents or whoever was taking care of you when you got put in the system.
Yeah.
You're the only person stopping yourself from being better than that.
Yeah. Um, Give us two stories that you'll never forget about the foster homes. Like just any, like the just any of the three that you went to. Just two stories, good or bad.
Um, in the Ramirez family, again, they didn't speak English, so I was forced to speak Spanish. So to this day, it has been a godsend. Finally, there was a silver lining, if you will. They were very strict. I was in middle school and going into high school, and I wasn't allowed to have friends. So I wasn't allowed to have friends over. I wasn't allowed to go to friends' houses. And oh no, a boy could never call the house. Even if it was about homework, it did not matter. Um, Except for eventually they said, okay, you can go to your friends down the street, but I want you to come back here every single hour on minute to check in, which is just insane, right? Um, I mean, I get it now that I look back. I mean, I understand, right? They want to make
Yeah.
sure I was safe because they were responsible for me if anything happened. I get it now. I get it, but back then I was just like, I'm a kid. I just want to go have fun. Like I just want to go play and like listen to music. I mean, really. But the Spanish, that's probably the best thing that I could take away from, one of the foster homes is, again, to this day, it still helps me. I can talk to just about anybody that walks in. In any of my other jobs that I've had, I've been able to, conversate with the ones that didn't know how to speak English. So I had that upper hand, that I spoke both fluently.
Hmm.
Um, so that was definitely a good thing. Trying to think. I will never forget moving from California to Oregon and moving into that environment. So I went from that super strict to do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. Just tell us who, what, where, when, why. You're a good kid. We trust you. Don't violate the trust, and you can do whatever you want. And so having that like complete 180, it was just like, whoa. Because I was a straight A student. I was a good kid, right? I was too afraid of making anybody mad that I just wanted to do well and just not pay attention to anybody else, what they're doing, and just focus on myself because I just want to get out of this alive, right? Like, and I want to be okay, and I don't want to be like my dad.
Uh-huh.
But moving up here, it was like, I can go do what? So it was, what? But yeah, so it was different, and they let me, have my adolescence back. For 2 years, I was allowed to be a teenager.
Yeah, that's the best
My
part.
last 2 years, I mean, did my grades suffer for it? Oh, sure, they absolutely did. But did I suffer for that? No.
No,
I,
that's the
I
best
still
part.
went to college. I mean, but I mean, just having that opportunity for the actually, I want to say probably for the first time in my life. I mean, other than the rare occasion, to be able to be a kid and not have to worry about taking care of my brother or not, not making them mad so I didn't get hit or whatever. That's a big thing, to actually feel like you can let your guard down even if just a little bit, right? That was huge. That
That's
was a big.
the yeah. That's something I can say too, cause that's when I went with my mom when I was 15. I went from the same exact. I went from a level 12 lockdown facility, like you gotta
Mhm.
look over your shoulder every day. You can't leave without authority. Like strict, one like strict. To my foster mom, and she's like, "Yo, um, go do what you're gonna do. You can go hang out with your friends, go play basketball, go go.
Get out of trouble,
Yeah, just you gonna
it's
be a kid. You are gonna get in trouble. Like I get it, but make sure like you said, tell me who, what, when, why. Don't violate my trust, and we all
we
good.
did.
And that's
And you're just like, what?
exactly. And I was just like, oh, okay. Like,
What is that like? What does that mean?
and that was the
And
best years like of my childhood that I can remember because like I
it's different.
yeah
Even
I just can't explain it.
and for others, for other foster children I've talked to, they said that that kind of euphoric, like, oh my God, really? Is if they didn't have a good family that they were ended up and aged out with,
Hmm.
then they said it happened later on, after they've been adults.
Okay.
Years later, like my friend Jennifer, she's same thing. But she had a really bad time in the system, but today she's doing really well, and so now she's kind of like, you know, uh, but it's yeah, it's even if you can so take advantage. I mean, I hope kids can see that even in all the bad, there's good, and so it's important that when they get those moments where they can just kind of let their guard down even a little bit, even if it's just with themselves, that's fine. Let it
Hmm.
down. Enjoy a little bit as much as you can, as often as you can,
Yeah, enjoy being a kid.
while you can do it. And I know it's hard, especially if you are in worse circumstances, but
So you
any moment you get that opportunity, take it.
so you went to college, correct?
Yes, I
What
did not
college did you
finish
go
college.
to?
I
What
went to
college?
university.
University of Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
I was a duck.
how was that? My cousin was a duck. He played on the basketball team. His name is Jonathan Lloyd, number 10.
So my husband will want to talk to him. He loves basketball, all things ducks.
How was that transition? That transition, but you were like, I mean, technically you were with your aunt.
Technically, but again, we did not have a relationship at all. There
Okay.
was no relationship leading up to that. I think I vaguely remember meeting her one time when I was very little,
Okay.
like still with my dad. So there was no relationship prior to that. So it was essentially a stranger.
Okay. So how was that transition from going from a foster home, now you're on your own in college?
It was hard. Um, I mean, and not for the reasons people might think. So one would think that it'd be hard because, you're by yourself or whatever. Actually, and because it's like, how do I do this? And you don't have money or you don't have this, you don't have that. But for me, it was like, I'm still pent up from not having that freedom and having that adolescence or childhood to only having a brief view of what it felt like to have it. And so in going into college, it was like, now I'm really can do whatever I want.
Hmm.
Sweet. And so I didn't care about anything other than being a teenager and wanting to have fun. So that definitely hurt me because it was like, you didn't have anybody telling you what to do and how to do it anymore. So you can just do whatever you want, and you've been lacking that for so long that you just want to absorb it all,
Hmm.
right? Bad move. Bad move.
I can say the same too, because
Um, yeah,
I did the
it's
same thing in college. I did the same thing in college. The only thing that I can say that got me was that I had three friends I had three friends that we all played basketball together,
Hmm.
and they pretty much kept me like yo, go to class. Like yo, like stop doing what you're doing over there and go to class. You know, like but my mindset is like I'm like this is the first time in my life that like I'm myself. Like I can be myself. I don't gotta act no way for no one. You know, like I'm on my own. I'm by myself. Like so, I wanted to experience everything on my own. But I had people that ground me. You know, at the
Right.
same time, they're like you know we got practice coming up, right? So maybe you shouldn't do that. You know, or you got about three classes tomorrow. Like you should probably go to sleep. You know, like so I have people that keep me grounded at the same time of us going out and having fun too. So
Right.
that was the best. That was the good part for me.
Yeah, I mean, you're lucky that you had the ground those people to ground you and keep you kind of centered a little bit. I did not have that, but ironically enough, that's not what ended my college career. So, I mean, I
Okay.
still went to class most of the time, and I still did my work and whatnot, but it was something completely unrelated that's really not relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Fact remains is that something other than that is what ended my college career.
Got you.
Um, and so it was that liberation again. That's why I keep saying. That's why I was saying, like, when you can take those few moments of childhood and enjoy them, take them, so that you don't end up in college doing what we just talked about. I mean, like, the worst thing you can do, because you're spending anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 or $20,000 to be at that school, whether it's your money or the state money, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
You're still spending money to be there, and you need to take advantage of that time at that school to learn what you can and do what you can with that degree, not screw it off because you didn't have enough time being a kid,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
know? And if you can just take those few moments to enjoy being a kid whenever and how often you can, do it, please, because then that will be that much fewer times you'll need to do that as a young adult going into college. Other than that, it was I was proud of myself, because again, I did not want to be a statistic. I refused to conform and be like the other various kids that have gone the system and haven't even graduated from high school or didn't make it into college, or
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to be that kid. And so I worked very hard to be able to get the scholarships and the different grants and financial aid and stuff. Um, but even after, so I was proud of myself for that. I mean, I was, because it doesn't always happen. Kids, for whatever reasons they don't necessarily finish getting their diploma or
Mm-hmm.
going into college for that matter, or they're too afraid to try, you know?
I just
So
I feel like it's a lack of
they don't have guidance either.
it's a lack of guidance.
Mm-hmm.
You have so many people. You have so many people that work in the system where these kids can't relate to.
Yeah.
You know, like I feel like if you have more kids, more adults that aged out of the system, that which you can bring up, now they're the ones that can help these kids. Now that will be
That would be an
something
amazing
that'll be
thing.
like amazing. You know, like we can't force you to um, we can't force you to want to go back and help these kids. But it starts with all of these states giving these kids the opportunity to be able to
To have
like
a mentor of some kind.
a mentor, like allow them, like that's the one thing that goes with the school too. Like you have the stipulations of these kids that want to actually help but don't give them the resources to actually get there.
Right.
You
Right.
know, so now the only thing they're forced to do is go back home and get it how they know, because they don't have the resources, or they have a shitty caseworker that's not giving them the right information that they need to survive
Definitely.
out there.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
didn't even know about ILP until I was almost completely aged out. So I didn't know that there was that opportunity and that
see, my
resource.
my caseworker had me in IOP at 15.
See,
I was taking IOP classes at 15 at Citrus College.
no, I wasn't. Yeah, they didn't have me doing any of that. I didn't even know about it until I was, I think I want to say 20.
They didn't tell you about IOP until you're 20.
Mm-mm.
You,
And my foster parents, my parents, they didn't know either. They didn't know about that program either. And I had a good caseworker in Oregon. My Oregon caseworker, he was actually phenomenal. If I could find him, I would thank him because he found a way. I might have been 19. I'm not 100%. But he found a way to work around the system because I'd already aged out.
Mm-hmm.
So there was like this weird like rule or something where because I've already been out of the system, they can't put me back in it as an adult. And he wanted to be able to help me. So he found some loophole because I reached back out to him, after I'd already aged out, right? And I said, I need help and I don't know what to do. And I don't have anybody or any money because I didn't feel at that time, I didn't feel like my aunt and uncle or slash foster parents, I didn't feel the connection I have with them today.
Mm-hmm.
So after I aged out, I assumed I was on my own, right? Because I didn't have parents. So I didn't think that they were still there for me. I didn't know that. They didn't make it clear and I didn't know. So after the college thing didn't necessarily work out, and then I tried to do things on my own, I remembered my caseworker saying, come and see me if you ever need anything, like ever. If you ever need anything, you just come see me. And so I remember that, and I reached out to him, and he found some loophole. I don't know what it was, how he did it, what he finagled. I couldn't tell you right now because it's been so many years, but he found a way to help me for the last like 6 months of my time that before I would have had to be out of that, the program that he was talking about. But yeah, no, I didn't get all the information
That's
that like all the kids get.
and that's what we want to. That's what we're doing here. We're giving them the information that they can have.
Right. Right. There's resources. There's a lot of people just don't know about them.
So, so we both grew up in the system.
Mm-hmm.
What advice can you give kids on how to get close to someone, how to actually trust someone?
That's a hard one.
How to give someone that actual chance.
You know,
You know what? Let's flip it. Instead of the kid, let's flip it to how do you get the mentor to how would you get a mentor to relate to the kid?
so it's hard. It's hard. I don't know. I know what I would want when I couldn't tell you what
Well,
I'd want from them,
okay.
but I can tell you what the kid should do. I mean, because honestly, if it's a good person that actually has good intentions, right? Let's say it's you or me trying to be a mentor for one of these kids. We don't know what they need from us, right?
Hmm.
Like we can't say that. I mean, because everyone's different. But I do know that every child, in my opinion, is it's scary, to trust anyone, especially because you've been disappointed, let down, screwed over, hurt time and time again. Um, but 9 out of 10, like overall, most people are inherently good. Not always. Obviously, we know that. But that random stranger that's trying to help you generally wants to help you. And you should always consider to yourself, what could they gain by if you're really wary, you can always ask yourself, what would they gain by hurting me? If the answer is nothing, they probably want to help you. Um, I don't know. So you just have to take a chance, and that's for me. I don't know about you. It was hard for me. I still have trust issues,
I do too.
so it's hard. But I've been learning a lot, especially this last year, and a lot of different people that I follow and stuff. And that was the one thing that kind of resonated to be true is that if they don't gain anything by hurting you or by screwing you over, chances are that you can at least give them some trust, and then build from there. Like if
Hmm.
you can't, if there's nothing they're going to get out of it from hurting you in any way, then at least give them the benefit of the doubt and at least try, like give them a little bit of trust, morsels of trust, and then build up.
And then
Um,
I'll go from the mentor side, or as a foster parent or whoever that person look up to. I feel like um, you just gotta show them that you care.
mhm. Oh
You
yeah,
know,
that's true.
it's not necessarily it's not necessarily a job.
Right.
Like don't let that kid think of like this is like you're doing this as a job. Like this is something that you genuinely want to do. You genuinely want to see them succeed. You know,
Right.
you're genuinely giving them the right information, whether they take it or not. Because most kids aren't going to take that information you give them, and they're going to mess up. How are
Yep.
you going to respond to them messing up? Are you
Hmm.
going to
Throw in the towel.
throw in a
Or
towel, give up, or are you going to tell them what they
no,
did wrong, what they did
that's
wrong?
100% true. Well, no, what you're
And
saying is right. That is
that's the one thing that got me. That's the one thing that I can honestly say got me is that my mom I messed up, and I'll tell this story on air really quick. I probably shouldn't, 'cause my brother just gets mad every time I say it. I was 16 years old. Um, I've been in that foster home for about a year, um, and I wanted to drive.
oh, you didn't.
So we had like a 5 car driveway, right? So my mom's car, my sister's car, my brother's wife's car, my brother's car, and then we had like this old big van, and the old vans that have like the bed in the back, and you can
Hmm.
like so we had that van in the back, and I backed out, everything was fine, and all I heard was skirt all down the side of my brother's 1968 '68 Falcon wagon.
Oh no,
Okay, this is his pride and joy.
you didn't.
Yes, I
You
did.
did. You did. Okay,
Um,
that was a joke.
so so I ran. I got out of the car. I parked it. Got out of the car. Went in the house. Grabbed my bags. Um, and dipped. And I just left. I'm like, I'm out.
Because you automatically assume that's what's going to happen, right?
I was like, oh, I'm done. Like, see, they won't press charges on me. I'm going to jail. Like at this
Yep.
point, that's what's in my mindset. Um, so at this point, I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna get to LA. Um, the police find me. So the first thing I'm thinking, I'm going to the police station. They take me back to my house, and my
You're a
mom,
Muslim person.
yeah, and my mom gets me, and she's like, why'd you run away? And she was like, it's a car. She's like, it's material. Like we can get the car fixed. And like we actually love you. Like we want you to be here. Like, and then from that day on, I was like, okay, like,
That's a good story, though.
this is from that day my entire mindset switched
Yeah.
from being angry, um, from being resentful, from being
Lonely.
non-trustful, not from being lonely. Everything switched to now it's like, okay, I have a family. Like I can be a kid. I can put my walls down. I have someone that I can trust.
Right. She proved that she does love you and that
Ex-
she does care, and she did
exactly.
it in action. I mean,
And,
I think that's probably the biggest thing
and,
for mentors. Is
and
they can't
you
just say
gotta
it. You have
you,
to feel
you
it. It
gotta
has to see.
do it. Don't just
Yep.
say it. Do it.
Yep.
Um, would you recommend kids going to college after aging out,
Um,
or picking up a
honestly,
trade, or
y- um, yes and no. I think everybody's different. I do not by any means think that they shouldn't try and do something with themselves. Some people are meant to go to college, and that might be their cup of tea. Others might think trade school, or maybe others have an ambition to be in a janitor, as we were talking about. You had mentioned something about a janitor earlier. It doesn't, as long as they are trying to be better and do better than what they, are perceived to do or whatever they want to do with themselves, their dream, whatever, go for your dream. Aim high, or you'll never reach the stars. So, and that's true. Like, you don't have to go to college to be successful.
mm-hmm.
You don't have to go to trade school to be successful. I'm living proof. I didn't finish college. I didn't get my degree. I didn't go to trade school. And my husband and I are, neither of us did actually, and we're still doing well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if I could go back and do things differently, I would have gone to a trade school minimum. That would be me. But that's my own personal thing.
Got you.
Just like I would love to go back to school now, and learn and do things in social work. But my mom tells me, no, You don't. You want to do the policy changing. You want to be the one changing the policies that help those kids.
Hmm.
You don't want to be the one that has
And
to like
that's
sit
what
and cry and see them
exactly.
being
That's what we
You want to
need
change the
more.
policy.
We need more people who are actually changing the policies that for all these kids that actually went through
Yep.
the things that they're fighting for. Not people that are gone to school and they learned this, this, and this of this situation. No, 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 no. You need people in there that actually went through the foster care system and made it out to represent
And
the foster care system.
know what you actually know firsthand what those things look like you didn't have to read it in a book. No, you experienced it,
Exactly.
so you can actually identify what those children are going through and how it's going to impact them. You see the holes that no one else can see, right?
Hmm.
And that's exactly true. And so if I could go back to school, I absolutely would, so that I could get into that. But we've started a path, so
I
we're
got you.
in that path.
So,
um,
so
But speaking of that, I do have a friend from foster system. She's actually in the same state as me. She and I are working with policymakers, state policy people, or federal policy people, sorry, to extend the Chafee grants that are offered to children to go to school after they age out or after they graduate high school, to extend that out past the potential 2 years of free college that Biden's trying to pass. So if that gets passed, we're trying to extend that Chafee grant after the fact.
hmm.
So you don't have to end up like your mom or your dad or whoever it was. You can do better. And they just need, in my opinion, I think all of us just need somebody to help us see that. And I think if we could reach more kids and tell them that, then they might actually try.
Hmm.
Um, but you're never going to get anywhere if you don't ask, if you don't try. You're never going to succeed if you don't at least give it a shot. You know,
I agree.
and nobody owes them anything. Not really. The world doesn't owe us anything, right? And you decide if you're the victor or the victim. And once when you're out on your own, that's your decision. Only in it's they just need a little bit of confidence, maybe, and guidance, I think.
Do you allow your childhood trauma to affect you now?
Mm, I try to actively not let it. It does affect me on occasion. There are things that do that certainly mess with me, but overall, no, I don't let it, determine what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it. I decide that.
How can we get kids to hit that same mindset?
I'm trying to think of when I actually realized that it's only me. I don't know. I wish I knew. I wish I knew the answer to that. Um, Maybe once they realize that it's them and they have to rely on themselves to get and be something and be better and do better, then once they see that and know that, then they will maybe, I don't know. I just don't know. Do you
I,
know? I mean, do you have any ideas? Because I wish I knew.
my just the it's pretty much the same thing in what you just said. Um, I, I feel like it's more of when you stop blaming yourself.
Hmm.
Once you realize where the fault actually lies, and it's definitely not on the child. But as a child, you don't realize that. As a child, most kids that go through the trauma that we went through, you think it's your fault. You did this.
Yep.
No one's telling you any, and then the people telling you that it's not your fault are people that can't relate to anything that you just went through.
Right.
So now you're not taking what they're saying is going through one ear and out the other, and now that's what's making you so angry at everybody
Hmm.
because not on like it's your fault that like you're feeling like it's your fault that your parents don't want you. Like I didn't do this good enough, or maybe if I would have did the dishes when they asked me to, or maybe if I would have did this when they asked me to, and if I was just a better kid. Like no, it doesn't work that way. Your parents need to
No.
be better parents.
Yeah.
You
Like
didn't you didn't choose to be born. They have
right.
you.
For the longest time, I thought it was my fault, something I did wrong that my mom didn't want me. Right. Like, why would she leave her two children with an abusive alcoholic when they're babies. I, for until my 20s, blamed myself and thought it was me. Had abandonment issues as a result, but I got to know her as an adult and then realized that no, she's just a shitty person and she was a bad parent. Because even as an adult, she did the whole same thing all over again. You know, she weaseled in and then took off again. And I'm like, well, no, now I know it's on you. And that was 100%. That was my defining moment with my biological mother.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never have that closure with my father. He died 5 years ago, 6 years ago. As you know, and the last time I'd spoken with him, he continues to blame me, you know, and I just had to just come to terms with it. I will never get him to admit to his faults, and that's not my problem. That's his. When he meets his maker, that's on him. But it was definitely hard to know it's not my fault. It took a long time.
Same
So
here. It took me to. Man, I just had it in my head. Um, it wasn't even after I got with my mom. Like I still felt that way. Um, like it was my fault. It wasn't until I was 18. I think I told this story last week. I'm not sure. My brother had just got shot in Las Vegas 8 times. Um, and I'm the only one in foster care. My other brothers are out in LA. They're older than me. I'm the youngest. I'm the baby. And I'm the only one in foster care. So I fly out from LA to Vegas to see my brother. He lives, and he's in critical condition. But you, at this point, after a shooting, they put you under a John Doe, and the only people who can visit you are like your brother, your family, like your brother, your mom's, like people that are really close to you that will have that John Doe name. Um, I walked back. I was walking back with my brother and my mom, biological mom. I was walking back to my brother's room to go see him for the first time, and my mom turned around and she looked at me, and she was like, "Don't worry, we got it from here. This is I'm his mom. This is his brother. Like you can go wait in the lobby." And I looked at her, and then my brother looked at me, and I looked at her, and I looked at him, and I was like, "You don't know who I am?" She was like, "What?" I was like, "You don't know who I am?" The drugs must have fried her brain so much after so many years. And I was like, "Dude, I'm your son. Like, I'm Mike. I'm Michael the third. Like, this is." And then, yeah, all hell broke loose after that. And then, so at that point, at 18 years old, I realized like that's her.
mm-hmm.
Like, I learned how to forgive her for the things that she did. Like, because she never did anything to me but mess my head up.
That's worse than the physical, I think.
Exactly.
Honestly,
She didn't do
so
nothing to
much
me
worse.
but mess my head up. So I forgave her for everything that she did to me. I don't talk to her to this day, but I don't envy her. You know, I don't wish no bad upon her. Um, but that's when I realized that it wasn't my fault. And that's what I want kids to know too is that it's okay to be angry. You know, for it's okay to under like to
Carry that burden.
to carry that burden, but the sooner the sooner you realize that it's not your fault, none of it is your fault, and why you're in foster care and all the other stuff, none of it is your fault. Um, that's when you'll feel like a different person.
hmm
I felt like everything off my shoulders was just lifted once I felt.
Yeah, I mean, it took a long time with me and my dad. Like my mom, again, like I always had abandonment issues, but that was not it's not the same thing as feeling guilty, right? Like I guess I mean it's but with my dad, he kept telling me that I'm a liar. I didn't that never happened, you know, the whole time. So you know, you can only hear something so many times that you're
Mm-hmm.
like, well, maybe it's true. Maybe I did just make all this shit up in my head, you know. And my family, it was, again, they were in Covina, West Covina, Azusa, they were all surrounding. So, and we saw them, and they never said anything. So maybe it was in my head, you know. And then I was like, it is my fault. And then I was like, no, no, I know what I saw. I know what happened. I know what I felt. I know what I went through. And as an adult, that was just confirmed with my family after he died, that yes, no, those things did happen. And having, I guess for me, that again, that confirmation that I wasn't crazy, um, or that it actually did happen, helped,
Yeah.
because now I didn't. And now I knew. I mean, I knew indefinitely that it was not my fault, and it just was. It was liberating, I guess. You know, and then you can go from there. You only have yourself, though. I mean, at the end of the day, and that's everybody, not just foster children. You only have yourself. You can only control yourself. You can't control the world.
So now we on the last two questions. What are you doing now? This is your chance to give yourself flowers.
So my husband and I are being primed to own a business in printing. So we help. It's like a large and small format. So anything that pretty much anything that can be printed, we can do. And we're going to be taking that over hopefully in the next 10 years, I think. Um, but in my personal life, and this is how I found you, actually. I was trying to reach other kids in the foster care system to try and say, hey, I want to help, or something, like just see if there's any way I can help them, you know, locally, because I was trying to keep local. But I have been very active in the opening of school movement, you want to call it, whatever it's called. I
Mm-hmm.
know in Texas, you guys have been open primarily for almost the entire time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, not here. Not here. Our kids aren't even back full time. They haven't been all year in our state. So, been very active in that. And then in that, I have expanded that to a national movement to push and help everyone across, like, other states with their issues with getting schools open, and trying to help them find ways, navigate through the legislative, or, you know, submitting their freedom of information requests. You know, I coordinated rallies all across the country on the very same day for the 1 year mark of school closures, and ultimately just trying to get kids more help and getting their rights to be recognized. And then it goes beyond just their education and opening schools at this point. Now it's all encompassing, which I had a feeling it was going to go there. And with it, so my friend and I that started it together, we're trying to help kids with their rights, get back to school and all that. But we're going to hopefully start a nonprofit for it, which will be a way to give children support that they can't find elsewhere. So, you know, like if, you know, you have kids that want to learn how to drive, they have a prom, they have this, they want to learn how to play a sport, whatever, and they don't have a parent to look up to,
Mm-hmm.
we're hoping to build a nonprofit for that so that they can actually have somebody that can teach them how to do that. And it's all community based. So
Okay.
you chip in your expertise, and then, you know, another kid might need that expertise, but at the same time, their parent can be helping your child or whatever. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's really hard to kind of explain, but
No, I get it.
because there's programs in place to help them with big things, but what about all those little things that these kids are missing out on? That they, you know, that help them become well-rounded adults,
Mm-hmm.
that matter. You know, they don't seem like they do, but they do. You know, learning how to fill out a job application, college application, whatever. So we're just trying to help kids across the U.S. at this point.
I got
And I'm
you.
kind
That's
of proud of it.
amazing. That's amazing. That's literally
Yeah.
amazing.
And yeah, so right now we're working on a strike, parent strike. So we'll see what happens.
Hope
Because we're
everything goes
just,
well with that. Let me know what I can do to help as well.
yeah, of
Um,
course, just helping kids is all we're trying to do. So that's what
got
you're
you.
doing.
So, last question of the day: who do you want to give your flowers to? Like, who do you want to give flowers to that helped you through the just you want to just say thank you to?
Um, my aunt Kristen in California, not the one up here where I'm living with, not the same aunt. This other aunt, she and I were very close growing up, and she would have loved to have taken us in. And I kind of gave her some shit as a kid because she didn't take us in. And I thought it was just because she was selfish. But as an adult, you grow up and you look back and you reflect and you're like, oh, maybe she wasn't being selfish.
Mm-hmm.
She just couldn't afford it, or she couldn't do it. and she's always been there for me, like faithfully as much as she could be, even when she was not allowed to see us when we were still with my dad, because he would, use us as a weapon to punish people he was mad at. Like, oh, you pissed me off, you can't see my kids. And so she would even find ways to reach out to us even as little kids. So I would give her flowers for sure. She's always been there.
Got you. Anybody else?
Jesus. No, I'm just kidding. No. I mean, there's lots of people, but the biggest one would have been her.
Got you.
Or my brother.
So,
Just to deserve it.
with that being said, I want to thank you for coming on. This was an amazing interview. And for everybody out there, I really hope that you guys got some really good information, and that
They're
you
more than welcome.
and that you apply it. You actually take something from here and apply it to your everyday life. So this is Michael McMillan. This is IAM Foster. Today we have Michelle Walker, and I appreciate you for coming on. Oh, and that popped up on screen too. So
Oh, okay.
I will have your email in the descriptions below.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, if anybody ever has a question or needs anything, they can reach out to me anytime.
got you. And like I said, I'll have a description for her down below, on the YouTube channel when this comes out. Thank you.
Thank you.
I see you.